The impossible discovery. The warning signs begin. The Zarethian Empire's Deep Space Monitoring Command had watched over the galaxy for 3,000 years. Their massive sensor arrays could detect a single grain of sand moving faster than light from halfway across the spiral arm. So when the impossible readings started appearing from the Sol system, panic spread through their ranks like wildfire. Commander Zixthala stood before the main display screen, her purple crystalline skin flickering with nervous energy. The readings made no sense. According to every law of physics known to the Zarethian Empire, what they were seeing was completely impossible. The primitive humans, who had barely crawled out of their solar system 50 years ago, were somehow generating energy signatures that rivaled the output of dying stars. "Run the diagnostics again," she commanded, her voice carrying the authority of someone who had never been wrong about cosmic phenomena. The junior technicians scrambled to comply, their six-fingered hands dancing across holographic controls. The same impossible data appeared on screen after screen. Somewhere in the Sol system, 17 different locations were producing energy readings that should have required the concentrated power of an entire star. The humans, who still used primitive chemical rockets and barely understood quantum mechanics, were somehow tapping into forces that the Zarethian Empire had never even detected. "Commander," squeaked Technician Velmore, his tentacles trembling with anxiety. "The readings are not just holding steady. They're growing stronger. In the past 6 hours, we've recorded a 40% increase in energy output from the third planet." Zixthala felt her core temperature drop. A 40% increase in stellar-level energy output meant these humans were either about to destroy themselves, or they had discovered something that would change everything. Either possibility terrified her. The Empire's greatest minds stumble. News of the impossible readings reached the Zarethian High Council within hours. The most brilliant scientists in the galaxy were summoned to the capital world of Zereth Prime, their various forms of transportation creating a traffic jam of cosmic proportions. Crystalline beings, gas-based intelligences, and even the rare quantum entities that existed in 11 dimensions simultaneously all gathered to examine the data from Sol. Dr. Kethmoran, the Empire's leading expert on theoretical physics, studied the readings with growing disbelief. His massive brain, enhanced by 3,000 years of accumulated knowledge, simply could not process what he was seeing. The energy signatures suggested the humans were manipulating dark matter on a scale that should have been impossible without technology that wouldn't be invented for another 1,000,000 years. "This cannot be accurate," he declared to the assembled scientists. "The mathematical models are clear. A species at their technological level should not be able to detect dark matter, let alone manipulate it. They barely understand gravity." But the readings were consistent across multiple monitoring stations. The humans were somehow working with cosmic forces that the Zarethian Empire had spent millennia trying to understand. More disturbing still, they seemed to be doing it with technology that looked like it had been built in someone's garage. The scientific community was divided. Some believed the humans had discovered ancient alien technology, perhaps left behind by one of the extinct civilizations that had once ruled the galaxy. Others theorized that the readings were the result of some unknown natural phenomenon that just happened to originate from the Sol system. But a small group of scientists, led by the controversial researcher Dr. Pixandra, suggested something that made the others uncomfortable. What if the humans had simply found a different way of doing things? What if their primitive understanding of the universe had led them to discover something that advanced civilizations had overlooked? The fleet mobilizes. Emperor Thexagon himself ordered the mobilization of the Imperial fleet. The Zarethian Empire had not faced a potential threat of this magnitude in over 1,000 years. If the humans had somehow developed technology that could manipulate dark matter, they posed a danger to every civilization in the galaxy. The flagship Eternal Dominion led a fleet of 200 warships toward the Sol system. Each vessel was a masterpiece of engineering, equipped with weapons that could crack planets and shields that could withstand the explosion of a star. The combined firepower of the fleet could have conquered entire star systems, and it was all being directed toward a single small blue planet on the outer edge of the galaxy. Admiral Vexillion commanded the fleet from the bridge of the Eternal Dominion. He was a veteran of 40 campaigns, his metallic exoskeleton scarred by battles that had shaped the galaxy. He had never lost a single engagement, and his tactical brilliance was legendary throughout the Empire. But as he watched the Sol system grow larger on his screens, he felt something he had never experienced before: uncertainty. The energy readings from Earth were unlike anything in the Imperial database. His science officers had run every possible analysis, compared the signatures to every known technology, and consulted with the galaxy's greatest experts. The conclusion was always the same: what the humans were doing should be impossible. "Sir," reported his tactical officer, "we're detecting multiple energy sources across the planet. They're not concentrated in military installations or major cities. They appear to be scattered randomly, as if ordinary civilians are operating this technology." This information made Admiral Vexillion even more concerned. If the humans had distributed this impossible technology among their general population, it suggested they had developed it independently rather than discovering it. That meant they understood it well enough to mass-produce it, which was even more terrifying than finding ancient alien artifacts. First contact protocols fail. As the Imperial fleet approached the outer planets of the Sol system, they began broadcasting standard first contact protocols. The Zarethian Empire had procedures for dealing with newly discovered civilizations, carefully crafted messages designed to establish peaceful communication while demonstrating overwhelming technological superiority. The humans' response was not what anyone expected. "Hello there," came a cheerful voice from Earth, speaking in what the translation systems identified as English. "We noticed your ships approaching. Would you like to visit? We have tea." The casualness of the response sent shockwaves through the fleet. Here was a species that had somehow developed technology beyond the understanding of the galaxy's most advanced civilization, and they were offering tea to a massive invasion force. Admiral Vexillion stared at the communication display, his 3 hearts beating in irregular patterns. In all his years of military service, he had never encountered a species that responded to the approach of a war fleet by offering refreshments. The humans either had absolute confidence in their defensive capabilities, or they were completely insane. "Request permission to land a diplomatic party," he responded, following protocols that seemed absurdly formal given the circumstances. "Of course," the human replied. "We'll clear a spot in the backyard. Fair warning, though. The garden is a bit overgrown this time of year." The fleet's xenobiologists worked frantically to analyze the human response. The casual tone, the reference to domestic activities, the complete lack of fear or aggression, it all suggested a species that operated on completely different principles than any known civilization. The impossible becomes routine. As the Imperial fleet took position around Earth, their sensors continued to monitor the impossible energy readings. What they discovered defied every assumption they had made about the humans and their technology. The energy sources were not coming from massive industrial complexes or military installations. They were originating from ordinary houses, small workshops, and even what appeared to be hobby projects. The humans were treating technology that should have required the resources of an entire star system as if it were no more complicated than gardening. Dr. Kethmoran, monitoring the readings from the flagship, found his worldview crumbling. "These energy signatures," he reported to Admiral Vexillion, "they're not being generated by any kind of technology we can identify. There are no fusion reactors, no antimatter containment systems, no exotic matter manipulators. The humans appear to be producing stellar-level energy output with devices that look like they were assembled from spare parts." The implications were staggering. If the humans had discovered a way to access cosmic forces without the massive infrastructure that the Zarethian Empire considered necessary, it meant that everything the Empire knew about physics and engineering was wrong. It meant that their 3,000-year technological civilization had been taking the hard way to accomplish things that could apparently be done with simple tools and the right approach. "Sir," The tactical officer reported, "We're receiving another transmission from the planet. They're asking if we'd like directions to the nearest landing site. They also want to know if anyone in the fleet has dietary restrictions." As the Eternal Dominion descended toward Earth's surface, its sensors continued to record impossible readings. The closer they got to the planet, the more apparent it became that the humans had somehow found a completely different way of interacting with the universe. They were not conquering cosmic forces or bending physics to their will. They were cooperating with them. The landing site turned out to be exactly what the humans had promised: someone's backyard. A modest house sat surrounded by an overgrown garden, with a small workshop visible behind the main building. The energy readings that had terrified the galaxy's greatest minds were coming from what appeared to be a hobby project in someone's garage. The universal conversation. The man in the garden. Dr. James Chen was watering his tomatoes when the alien ship landed in his backyard. He had been expecting them. Of course, the news reports had been full of stories about the massive fleet approaching Earth. But seeing the sleek, crystalline vessel settle gently between his vegetable garden and the old oak tree was still quite remarkable. He set down his watering can and walked toward the ship, wiping his hands on his gardening apron. The vessel was beautiful, its surface shifting between different shades of purple and blue like a living gemstone. It was clearly the product of an incredibly advanced civilization, far beyond anything humanity had achieved. The ship's door opened with a sound like wind chimes, and several figures emerged. Dr. Chen had seen aliens on the news broadcasts, but meeting them in person was a different experience entirely. The beings who stepped into his garden were tall and elegant, their crystalline skin catching the afternoon sunlight and breaking it into rainbow patterns. "Hello," he said, giving them a friendly wave. "I'm James Chen. Welcome to Earth. I hope you had a pleasant journey." The lead alien, wearing what appeared to be some kind of uniform, stepped forward. When it spoke, its voice was translated by a small device that made it sound like a computer trying to be polite. "I am Admiral Vexillion of the Zerethian Imperial Fleet. We have come to investigate the impossible energy readings originating from this location. You are the source of these readings." Dr. Chen nodded, seemingly oblivious to the alien's obvious tension. "Oh, you must mean the garden project. Yes, that's been working quite well lately. Would you like to see it? I was just about to make some tea." Admiral Vexillion exchanged glances with his officers. In all their scenarios for first contact with the humans, none had involved being invited for tea by someone who treated stellar-level energy manipulation as a garden project. "We would be honored to observe your technology," the Admiral replied, trying to maintain diplomatic protocols despite the surreal situation. Dr. Chen led them around the house to a small workshop that looked like it had been built from spare parts and enthusiasm. Inside, various devices hummed quietly, their surfaces covered with what appeared to be handwritten labels and improvised modifications. The energy readings that had sent the Zerethian Empire into a panic were coming from a collection of machines that looked like they had been assembled by a particularly creative teenager. "This is my latest project," Dr. Chen explained, patting a device that looked like a cross between a computer and a music box. "I call it a harmony drive. It works by asking the universe to help out with things. The science that wasn't science." Dr. Kethmoran, the Empire's greatest physicist, stared at the human device with growing confusion. His enhanced brain, capable of processing mathematics that would drive lesser minds insane, could not understand what he was seeing. The machine appeared to be constructed from ordinary materials: metal, silicon, and what looked like recycled electronics. Yet it was producing energy readings that should have required the core of a star. "Explain the operating principles," he demanded, his translator making his voice sound harsh and mechanical. Dr. Chen scratched his head, leaving a small streak of dirt from his gardening. "Well, it's hard to explain exactly. The universe is full of energy, right? Dark matter, dark energy, quantum fluctuations. There's power everywhere if you know how to ask for it politely. Ask for it politely. Dr. Kethmoran's voice rose in pitch, causing several nearby birds to take flight. Energy manipulation requires precise mathematical calculations, exotic matter containment, and technological infrastructure capable of withstanding forces that could destroy planets. You cannot simply ask the universe for power. As the days passed, more human inventors emerged to share their work with the fascinated aliens. Each one had their own approach to what they called collaborative physics, ways of working with the universe that produced impossible results through simple, elegant methods. Maria Santos showed them her gravity wells, devices that convinced space-time to curve in useful directions by asking it to help move heavy objects. Her workshop looked like a cross between a laboratory and an art studio, with equations written on the walls next to inspirational quotes about the beauty of mathematics. Robert Kim demonstrated his communication system, which could send messages across the galaxy instantly by politely requesting that quantum entanglement help carry information. His device looked like a combination of a computer and a meditation shrine, complete with burning incense and soothing music. Each human inventor had discovered the same fundamental truth through different paths. The universe was not an enemy to be conquered, but a partner to be understood. They had found ways to work with cosmic forces that were not only more effective than traditional methods, but also more elegant and sustainable. The Zarethian Empire's scientists found themselves in the position of students learning from teachers who didn't even realize they were teaching. The humans shared their knowledge freely, excited to meet others who were interested in the same cosmic mysteries they had been exploring. The decision point. Emperor Thexagon himself arrived at Earth to witness the phenomenon that was reshaping the galaxy's understanding of reality. The most powerful ruler in known space found himself sitting in Dr. Chen's garden, drinking tea and listening to explanations of physics that his greatest scientists couldn't fully comprehend. "Your Majesty," Dr. Chen said, offering the alien emperor a plate of cookies, "I hope you don't mind my asking, but why did your people develop such complicated ways of doing things? The universe is so helpful once you get to know it." The emperor, who had ruled over trillions of beings and commanded resources that could reshape star systems, found himself at a loss for words. How do you explain 3,000 years of technological development to someone who had made it all obsolete with curiosity and kindness? "We believed," he said slowly, "that the universe was something to be mastered. That intelligence meant overcoming natural forces through superior technology." Dr. Chen nodded thoughtfully. "I can see how you might think that, but maybe intelligence means understanding that we're already part of something amazing, and we just need to find our place in it." The emperor looked around the modest garden, where impossible technologies hummed quietly between the tomato plants and rose bushes. Here was a species that had achieved in decades what his empire had failed to accomplish in millennia, not through conquest, but through cooperation. The decision he made that day would reshape the galaxy. Instead of trying to acquire human technology through force or diplomacy, the Zarethian Empire would do something unprecedented in their history. They would learn to ask the universe for help. The age of cosmic cooperation had begun, and it started in a backyard garden where a human had offered tea to the most powerful beings in the galaxy and shared the simple truth that the universe was friendly to those who approached it with respect and wonder. And across the galaxy, impossible energy readings began appearing as other civilizations learned that the greatest discoveries came not from fighting against the cosmos, but from learning to dance with it. Dr. Chen smiled the patient smile of someone who had spent years trying to explain his work to skeptical colleagues. "That's what I used to think too. But then I realized we were approaching the whole thing backwards. Instead of trying to force the universe to do what we want, why not work with what it already wants to do?" He activated the device with a simple switch that looked like it had been salvaged from an old household appliance. Immediately, the alien instruments began screaming warnings as energy levels spiked beyond their ability to measure. "See, dark matter wants to flow," Dr. Chen continued, apparently oblivious to the panic his demonstration was causing. It's like water in a river. It has natural currents and patterns. We just learned to build channels that let it flow where we need it to go. Admiral Vexillion watched his science officer's face cycle through expressions of disbelief, confusion, and something approaching existential crisis. Dr. Kethmoran had dedicated his life to understanding the fundamental forces of the universe, and now a human gardener was casually explaining that everything the Zarethian Empire believed about physics was unnecessarily complicated. The philosophy of cooperation. But the mathematical frameworks, Dr. Kethmoran insisted, pulling out a holographic display that showed equations complex enough to give normal beings headaches. The energy requirements for dark matter manipulation are precisely calculated. You cannot achieve these results without exotic matter conduits and quantum containment fields. Dr. Chen studied the alien mathematics with interest, though he clearly didn't understand most of it. "Those equations are very impressive," he said kindly. "But I think you're trying to solve the wrong problem. You're calculating how to make the universe do what you want. I just asked it what it wanted to do, and then found ways to make that useful." He led them to another device, this one looking like a greenhouse had been crossed with a radio telescope. "This is my communication array," he explained. "It talks to the quantum foam. You know, the stuff that makes up empty space. Turns out it's quite chatty once you learn how to listen." The device was operating on principles that the Zarethian Empire had never encountered. Instead of imposing order on quantum chaos, it seemed to be having a conversation with the fundamental randomness of reality. And somehow, this conversation was producing coherent, useful results. "The universe is friendly," Dr. Chen continued, adjusting a component that looked suspiciously like it had been borrowed from a kitchen appliance. "It wants to help. We just had to learn how to ask nicely instead of demanding." Admiral Vexillion found himself in the unprecedented position of having his entire worldview challenged by someone who clearly had no idea how revolutionary his ideas were. The human wasn't claiming to have made a great discovery or developed superior technology. He was simply sharing a different way of thinking about the universe. The revelation spreads. Word of the discovery spread through the Imperial fleet like wildfire. The greatest military force in the galaxy had encountered a species that had made every weapon, every defense system, and every technological achievement of the Zarethian Empire obsolete, not through superior force, but through superior understanding. The humans hadn't conquered the universe. They had made friends with it. Dr. Pixandra, the controversial researcher who had suggested that the humans might have found a different approach, found herself vindicated in the most spectacular way possible. Her theories about alternative technological development were no longer speculation. They were sitting in a human's backyard, humming quietly while they powered impossible machines with nothing more than politeness and curiosity. "We have been approaching cosmic forces as adversaries to be overcome," she explained to a gathering of the fleet's senior officers. "The humans treat them as neighbors to be understood. They don't fight against the laws of physics. They work with them so elegantly that the universe itself helps them succeed." The implications were staggering. If the human approach could be understood and adapted, it would revolutionize every aspect of Zarethian civilization. Transportation, communication, energy production, even the basic understanding of how reality worked, everything would need to be reconsidered. But more than that, it would require a fundamental shift in how the Zarethian Empire viewed their relationship with the cosmos. For 3,000 years, they had seen themselves as conquerors of space, benders of natural law, and masters of cosmic forces. The humans had shown them a different path, one based on cooperation rather than domination. The new paradigm, the impossible fix. Maya Chen wiped condensation from her goggles as she studied the twisted hull of the alien vessel. Nova Repair Station hung in Earth's orbit like a massive mechanical octopus, its docking arms extending outward to cradle damaged ships from across the galaxy. This particular vessel, however, was unlike anything she'd seen in her 15 years as chief engineer. "What do you think?" asked Raj Patel, her second in command, running a scanner over the ship's bizarre architecture. The vessel's hull seemed to be composed of multiple layers that shifted between solid and semi-translucent states. "I think we're about to earn our reputation," Maya replied, tucking the strand of her short black hair behind her ear. The Vectari ambassador, a tall, gaunt being with iridescent scales covering its face, clicked its mandibles nervously. "3 advanced repair facilities have declared our flagship beyond salvation. The damage to our phase shift drive is catastrophic." Maya smiled. If there was one thing humans had learned since joining the Galactic community 50 years ago, it was that impossible just meant hasn't been solved yet. "Hendricks, what's the material analysis say?" Maya called to her materials specialist. Dr. Elena Hendricks, a former quantum physicist who'd found her calling in practical applications, looked up from her scanner. "It's a crystalline metallic composite with some kind of bioneural interface woven throughout. Similar to that Korginian scout ship we repaired last month, but far more complex." The ambassador's vertical pupils dilated. "You've worked on Korginian technology. They are notoriously protective of their designs." "We get around," Maya said with a modest shrug. The truth was that Nova Station had quickly become the go-to facility when no one else could help. Human repair stations were appearing throughout known space, all operating on the same core philosophy: figure it out, make it work. Lipark, the station's systems integration expert, emerged from inside the alien vessel, his face streaked with luminescent fluid. Despite this, his expression was animated with excitement. "The quantum resonator isn't destroyed. It's just completely out of phase with their navigation system. The calibration is all wrong." The Vectari made a high-pitched trilling sound that Maya's translator rendered as extreme surprise. "Impossible. Our finest engineers attempted recalibration for 3 cycles. Your engineers probably tried to align it according to standard Vectari protocols," Elena said as she connected her tablet to the ship's control interface. "But this drive system wasn't manufactured by your people, was it?" The ambassador's scales shifted to a deeper blue. Embarrassment, Maya had learned. "No. We acquired it from Zalnar traders. They refused to share specifications." Maya nodded. "That explains it. Zalnar Tech operates on a completely different mathematical foundation. We repaired one of their mining vessels last year. Nearly cost me 2 fingers," Lai added with a laugh, holding up his scared hand. The team worked through the station's night cycle, fabricating custom adapters and recalibrating the alien systems. Maya watched with pride as her people tackled the problem from multiple angles, trying, failing, and trying again. That was the human edge. They weren't afraid to fail. Most alien civilizations had been spacefaring for thousands of years. They had established procedures, proper channels, and correct solutions. Humans were newcomers who hadn't learned what was impossible yet. By station morning, the alien drive hummed with new life. The Vectari ambassador's scales rippled with a golden glow that Maya's translator interpreted as joy. "This is unprecedented. 3 months of travel saved, at minimum. How have humans mastered repairing so many different technologies?" Maya smiled. "We're curious. And stubborn. But it was more than that. Humans had spent their history adapting, improvising, and overcoming. From stone tools to spacecraft, they had always been tinkerers and fixers." As the Vectari vessel departed, Maya's communication unit chimed. "Chief," said Karim, their communications specialist, "incoming distress call from a Draken warship. Their command vessel has suffered catastrophic system failure." "The Drakens," Raj whistled low. "They never ask for outside help." "They do now," Maya said, already reviewing the preliminary scan data. "Looks like we're about to get busier around here." The team moved to prepare a docking bay for the massive alien vessel, ready for whatever challenge came next. Word spread quickly about Nova Repair Station. Within months, alien ships began appearing regularly. Their captains requesting help with systems other repair facilities had declared beyond hope. Maya's team worked around the clock, expanding their knowledge of alien technologies with each new challenge. Incoming transmission from the Draken Imperium, Karim announced one morning, his voice professional, but his eyes wide. It's from High Commander Vorex himself. The main screen flickered to life, revealing a broad-shouldered being with ridged, stone-like skin and glowing amber eyes. The Drakens were known for their military might and rigid hierarchy. They rarely interacted with humans except through formal diplomatic channels. Nova Repair Station, the commander's translator conveyed in a deep, resonant tone. Our flagship, the Eternal Vigilance, has suffered critical damage to its weapons array and life support systems. We require immediate assistance. Maya stepped forward. We'd be happy to help, Commander. What happened to your ship? That information is classified. Vorex responded stiffly. You will be permitted to examine only the damaged systems. Raj rolled his eyes behind the commander's view. The Drakens were notoriously secretive about their military technology. We'll need comprehensive access to understand how everything interconnects, Maya explained patiently. But we can limit personnel to essential team members only. After tense negotiations, the massive Draken flagship arrived. It dwarfed Nova Station, its obsidian hull covered in angular patterns that served as both decoration and armor. A delegation of Draken engineers met Maya's team at the docking port, their leader, Chief Engineer Krell, making no attempt to hide his skepticism. We will observe your work at all times, he stated, his voice like grinding stones. Touch nothing without prior authorization. This should be entertaining, Lai whispered to Alina. The damage was worse than expected. The ship's primary power core had overloaded, frying countless systems. The Draken repair procedures, methodical, by-the-book protocols, had made little progress. On the third day, tensions reached a breaking point when Alina began disassembling a control panel without consulting the manual. Cease immediately, Krell demanded. That is not the approved procedure. With respect, Alina replied, not looking up from her work. Your procedure isn't fixing the problem. Sometimes you need to try something new. Unacceptable. These protocols were established by our greatest engineers centuries ago. Maya intervened before the situation escalated. Karim, could you give our guests a tour of our fabrication facilities? I think they might be interested in our adaptive manufacturing process. Karim nodded, understanding Maya's real intention. With his natural diplomatic skills, he'd keep the Drakens occupied while the team worked their magic. Your methods are chaotic, Krell complained as Karim led them away. Undisciplined. Different isn't always wrong, Karim replied with a smile. Humans have a saying. Necessity is the mother of invention. Over the next week, Maya's team rebuilt the Draken systems piece by piece. They improvised when parts weren't available, modified incompatible components, and occasionally ignored impossible limitations in the Draken engineering manuals. Commander Vorex arrived to inspect their progress, his entourage of advisors in tow. His expression remained unreadable as systems came online one by one. Inconceivable, Krell muttered as the main power core stabilized. We calculated 6 months for these repairs. Word of your success is spreading, Vorex informed Maya. The Solarian Alliance has inquired about your services, the Quantum Collective as well. Maya smiled. We're happy to help anyone who needs it, even potential adversaries of humanity. The commander asked pointedly. In space, everyone needs help sometimes, Maya replied. Today's customer might be tomorrow's ally when trouble strikes. The commander considered this, an interesting perspective. The Imperium will remember this service. As the Draken flagship departed, 5 new distress signals came in from across the sector. Nova Station's reputation was growing faster than they could keep up with repairs. I think we need to hire more staff, Raj suggested. Maya nodded. And expand our docking capacity. Things are about to get very busy around here. The Galactic Challenge. The impossible repair arrived on a Tuesday. Maya was reviewing supply inventories when alarms blared throughout the station. She rushed to the command center. where Karim was coordinating emergency protocols. "What's happening?" she asked. "Unknown vessel just appeared 500 kilometers off our port bow," he replied. It's just sitting there, broadcasting a distress signal, unlike anything in our database." The main view screen showed a massive ship unlike any Maya had ever seen. Its hull seemed to shift and move as if struggling to remain in one dimension. Sections appeared transparent, then solid, then transparent again. "That's Solmec design," whispered Elena, eyes wide with awe. "I've only seen images in historical archives." The Solmec were one of the oldest known species in the galaxy, ancient and mysterious. They rarely interacted with younger races, preferring to explore the edges of known space. Their technology was rumored to be thousands of years beyond anything else in the galaxy. The communication system crackled as a hologram appeared. A tall, willowy being with 4 arms and a head featuring a spiral pattern of luminous dots. "This is research vessel Eternal Inquiry," the being said. "We experienced catastrophic damage during dimensional transit, requesting emergency assistance." Maya exchanged glances with her team. This was well beyond anything they tackled before. "This is Nova Repair Station," she responded. "We'll do what we can to help." When that Solmec ship was towed into the largest repair bay, the true extent of the damage became clear. Entire sections were phasing in and out of reality. The engine core was bleeding exotic radiation that their sensors couldn't even identify. The Solmec chief scientist, who introduced himself as Observer Sethmal, seemed doubtful of human abilities. "Your species has only achieved interstellar travel in the last century," he noted. "Our technology may be beyond your comprehension." Elena bristled at this. "We won't know until we try, will we?" For the first few days, progress was minimal. The human team struggled to even understand the basic principles behind the alien technology. The Solmec engineers watched with growing disappointment. The breakthrough came on the 5th day when Maya was studying scans of the damaged dimensional drive. "The energy patterns," she said suddenly. "They're similar to fluid dynamics on Earth. The ship doesn't force its way through space-time. It flows with it, like water finding a path of least resistance." Lai leaned over her shoulder, studying the patterns. "You're right. And if it's like a fluid system, then the damage is like a blockage disrupting the flow, creating turbulence in the dimensional field," Maya finished. They called in the station's AI. "Can you create a simulation based on fluid dynamics principles, but applied to these space-time distortions?" The artificial intelligence processed the request. "Unconventional application, but possible. Generating model now." The holographic display showed the problem clearly. The dimensional accident had created a knot in the ship's space-time manipulation field. No wonder that Solmec couldn't fix it. They were looking at the problem from a purely mathematical perspective, not a physical one. "We need to untangle the field," Maya explained to Observer Sethmal, "not by brute force, but by redirecting the energy flow gradually." The Solmec's luminous dots pulsated in sequence, their version of surprise. "A novel approach. Our calculations suggested this was impossible. Sometimes you need to step back from the equations and just feel the problem," Raj said. Using Araya's simulations and human intuition, they designed a series of field manipulators that would gently redirect the space-time currents. The repair took 4 more days of careful adjustments, with the team working in shifts around the clock. When the final manipulator was activated, the ship's hull stabilized completely. Systems came back online one by one as the Solmec stared in disbelief. "You have accomplished what our finest minds could not," Sethmal acknowledged. "Perhaps there is more to learn from young species than we believed." As the ancient vessel departed, Maya knew their reputation had changed forever. If humans could fix Solmec technology, there was nothing in the galaxy beyond their reach. The successful repair of the Solmec vessel sent shockwaves throughout the galactic community. News traveled faster than light through interstellar communication networks. Nova Repair Station became famous overnight. But not everyone was pleased with humanity's rising reputation. 1 month after the Xolmech departed, Maya received a formal message from the Artisan Guild of Seven Systems, the oldest and most prestigious engineering organization in the known galaxy. They issued a challenge, Maya told her team, reading from the ornate document. A formal repair competition with representatives from 12 spacefaring civilizations. A competition. Raj scratched his chin. What exactly would we be fixing? They don't say. Only that each team will face the same damaged systems under strict time limits. Maya looked up. The winner gains exclusive repair rights in 3 disputed sectors. Elena whistled. That's serious business. Those sectors include some major trade routes. Do we accept? Lai asked. Maya nodded. I already did. The competition starts next week at Centauri Deep Space Station. We're representing all human repair facilities. The team arrived at Centauri Station to find 11 delegations from across the galaxy. Some were familiar. The methodical Drakens, the crystalline Telax, the gaseous Nebulons. Others Maya had only heard about in passing. Most intimidating was Master Engineer Vortek of the Saurian Unity. His species had been building starships when humans were still using steam engines. His 6 limbs could work on multiple systems simultaneously, and his neural implants connected directly to diagnostic equipment. The human team, Vortek remarked when they met in the preparation area, his voice cool and precise. Your unconventional methods have caused quite a stir. Some would say too much attention for such a young species. Results speak for themselves, Maya replied evenly. Vortek's scaled face rippled slightly. Perhaps, or perhaps you've simply been fortunate. True engineering excellence requires centuries of refinement, not lucky guesses. The competition began the next morning. 12 identical chambers contained the same challenge. A fusion reactor from a mining platform, deliberately sabotaged in complex ways. Teams had 6 hours to restore full functionality. Maya's team approached the problem methodically at first, running diagnostics and mapping damaged systems. But 3 hours in, they hit a major obstacle. The reactor's containment field wouldn't stabilize despite their best efforts. Something's wrong, Elena muttered. These readings don't make sense. It's like the field is being disrupted from outside. Lai checked their equipment. Wait a minute. He removed the casing from their main diagnostic tool. Inside was a tiny device emitting a faint pulse. We've been sabotaged. Maya immediately called for the competition monitors. The thorough investigation found similar devices in several teams' equipment, though some, including Vortek's, were clean. Do you accuse me? Vortek demanded when suspicions were raised. I'm pointing fingers at no one, Maya said. But someone wanted to ensure certain teams failed. The competition organizers, after confirming the sabotage, extended the time limit by 2 hours. Maya's team worked frantically to make up for lost time. With 30 minutes remaining, 11 of the 12 teams had their reactors running at partial capacity. Only the Telax had achieved full power restoration. We're missing something, Maya said, staring at their reactor. It was running at 72% efficiency. Respectable, but not winning. Raj suddenly snapped his fingers. The thermal exchanger. It's not damage. It's been modified. Look at these microfractures. They're too regular to be accidental. The team refocused their efforts. With 5 minutes to spare, they bypassed the sabotaged exchanger entirely with a makeshift solution using coolant lines and emergency power couplings. Their reactor surged to 94% efficiency, second place behind the Telax. Not bad for a young species, Vortek acknowledged grudgingly as the scores were announced. This was just round 1, Maya reminded him. The real challenge starts tomorrow. As they left the competition floor, Karim pulled Maya aside. I've been monitoring communications. Guild agents are discussing Phase 2. They're planning something big, something designed specifically to make humans fail. The investigation into the sabotage continued through the night. Security officers reviewed recordings and questioned competitors, but found no conclusive evidence about who had planted the devices. The guild wants this kept quiet, Karim informed Maya, as they prepared for the second day. They're calling it an equipment malfunction to avoid scandal. Convenient, Elena muttered, checking their tools carefully for any new tampering. But we won't let it distract us. The second challenge began at 800 station time. This time, teams faced damaged navigation systems from an exploration vessel. These systems were notoriously complex, designed to plot courses through multi-dimensional space. Maya's team approached their workstation cautiously. Everything seemed in order, but they knew better than to take chances now. I want full diagnostics on our own equipment before we touch their systems, Maya ordered. And keep an eye on that access panel. I don't want any surprises. 2 hours into the challenge, the Draken team was making impressive progress. Their methodical approach suited the mathematical precision of navigation systems. Vortex team was close behind. Human teams had always approached repairs differently than most alien civilizations. Where aliens saw perfection as the goal, humans embraced the concept of good enough. While the Drakens carefully recalibrated each subsystem to factory specifications, Maya's team focused on getting the critical functions working first. The calibration doesn't need to be perfect, Maya explained when Raj questioned a shortcut. It just needs to get a ship home. This philosophy had roots in humanity's difficult journey to the stars. Unlike many species who had developed spaceflight gradually, humans had been forced to adapt quickly. Their first interstellar ships were cobbled-together affairs, constantly breaking down and requiring improvised repairs. The memory of those early challenges had shaped human engineering culture. No human shipyard produced flawless vessels. Instead, they built ships that could be fixed by their crews when things inevitably went wrong. 4 hours into the challenge, disaster struck. The overhead lights flickered, and all teams' diagnostic systems suddenly reset. Some teams lost hours of work. Power surge, announced the competition monitor. We apologize for the inconvenience. Elena wasn't convinced. That was no accident. Look at the timing, just as we were about to complete the phase shift alignment. Maya studied the reactions of the other teams. Most were frantically trying to recover lost data, but Vortex simply continued working as if he'd expected the interruption. They're testing our ability to recover from failure, Maya realized. Well, that's one test humans will always pass. Throughout human history, failure had been their greatest teacher. The most important lessons came not from success, but from things going terribly wrong. Every disaster, from early rocket explosions to colony ship malfunctions, had taught humans new ways to survive and adapt. While the Draken team started over from the beginning, meticulously following their procedures, Maya's team took a different approach. Forget the diagnostics, she told her team. We know what's wrong. Let's focus on fixing it, even if our solution isn't in any manual. Raj grinned, just like that reactor meltdown on the Mars colony. Exactly, Maya nodded. We didn't have the right parts then either. The team worked with renewed energy, ignoring the proper repair sequence. They jury-rigged connections, bypassed damaged components, and wrote quick software patches. Their solution wasn't elegant, but it would work. With 30 minutes remaining, they had their navigation system operational at 91% efficiency. Not perfect, but more than enough to safely fly. Vortex finished shortly after, achieving 96% efficiency through textbook-perfect repairs. The Drakens, despite their precision, ran out of time with their system, at only 78%. As the scores were tallied, Maya overheard 2 guild officials talking quietly. The humans recovered too quickly, one whispered. The final challenge must be definitive. The other replied. No amount of human improvisation can overcome what we've prepared. The morning of the final challenge arrived with tension filling the competition hall. After 2 days, 3 teams led the rankings: Vortex Saurian experts, the crystalline Tilax engineers, and Maya's human team. The others trailed significantly behind. Teams, your attention please, announced the Guild Overseer, a multi-limbed being with silver skin. Today's final challenge will test the limits of your abilities. You will each attempt to repair this. A spherical device about 1 meter across was revealed on each team's workstation. It appeared deceptively simple, a metallic shell with various access panels. This is the Paradox Engine, the Overseer explained. It was specifically designed to be unfixable. Its internal systems are in conflict with each other. Every solution creates new problems. You have 8 hours to make it functional. The teams examined their devices with varying reactions. The Drakens immediately began consulting thick technical manuals. The Nebulans extended sensory tendrils into the access ports. Vortex simply stared at his device, all 6 eyes blinking in sequence as his neural implants scanned it. Maya's team gathered around their Paradox Engine cautiously. Scan shows 5 different power systems all working against each other, Elena reported, frowning at her tablet. And the control circuits are bizarre. They're programmed to reverse any input. Lai ran his hand over the outer casing. Materials analysis shows at least 12 different alloys, some of which shouldn't be able to exist together without reacting. They weren't kidding about unfixable, Raj muttered. 4 hours passed with minimal progress. The Tlax team had managed to stabilize one subsystem, but 3 others had failed in response. Vortex was methodically testing each component, building a complex virtual model of the device. The Drakens had already gone through 3 complete diagnostic protocols without finding a viable repair path. Maya's team had disassembled portions of their engine, spreading components across their workstation in what appeared to be chaos. But Maya saw a pattern forming. It's not designed to be repaired, it's designed to be transformed, she said suddenly. We're not supposed to fix it as it is. We need to change what it is. The team looked at her in confusion, then understanding dawned on their faces. Like the colony ships during the Mars dust storms, Raj said. When we couldn't fix the air filters, we redesigned them to use the dust as filtering material, Maya finished. Exactly. With renewed purpose, the team began reconnecting components and configurations that violated every repair manual ever written. Instead of fighting the device's contradictory systems, they embraced the chaos, creating a new order from it. As the final hour approached, Maya's team was the only one still working. The others had either given up or reached limitations they couldn't overcome. Even Vortex stood watching the humans with reluctant fascination. With 5 minutes remaining, Maya connected the final circuit. The Paradox Engine hummed to life, glowing with a soft blue light. It wasn't operating as originally designed. It was something new altogether. Impossible, the Guild Overseer whispered, approaching their workstation. No, Maya corrected gently. Just human. The competition concluded with humanity's unexpected victory. The Guild officials were forced to acknowledge what the galaxy was beginning to understand, that sometimes the newest species brings the freshest perspective. As Maya's team prepared to return to Nova Station, Vortex approached them. I still maintain that your methods lack refinement, the Saurian engineer said, but I cannot argue with your results. Perhaps there is something to be said for your unconventional approach. Maya smiled. That's the highest compliment you could give us. Aboard their shuttle, Karim received an incoming transmission. You're not going to believe this, he said. We got requests from 17 new species, including the Saurians, asking about training exchanges with human repair facilities. Maya looked out at the stars, thinking about humanity's journey. They had entered the galactic community as newcomers, lacking the history and traditions of the ancient races. But they had brought with them the one thing those races had sometimes forgotten over millennia of prosperity: the ability to look at problems with fresh eyes, unbound by convention. Send them all the same reply, she told Karim. We're happy to help. In the vast expanse of space, humanity had found its place, not as conquerors or even as innovators, but as the galaxy's problem solvers, the species that could look at the impossible and see possibility.